In a small, quiet town where secrets whispered in the wind and trust was held dear, a chilling crime sent shockwaves through the community. The murder of Randy Stone shook the very foundations of this once serene place, leaving residents on edge and desperate for answers. Join us on a journey into the heart of this haunting mystery as we unravel the dark secrets and hidden motives that led to Randy Stone's untimely demise. A long time ago, a man named Randy Stone and a woman named Teresa, who would later become his wife, grew up together in Kansas City, Missouri. Both of their families were Christian and active in the Baptist Church. After finishing high school, Randy joined the United States Marine Corps. When he returned home in the spring of 1990, he had Teresa on his mind. They started dating in March and got married in October of the same year. A year later, they had a son named Michael, and 2 years after that, they had a daughter named Miranda. Randy, who owned his own small insurance company, served as the church's minister of records, taking care of the church's finances. Teresa sang in the choir and volunteered her time wherever she could. Through their involvement in various church activities, the Stones became close to the new pastor, David Love, who was only 38 years old when he took on the role. Pastor Love and his wife Kim had 3 children. After being married for about 14 years, Teresa, who had been a devoted stay-at-home mom, announced in 2004 that she was pregnant again. This was a surprise because their older children, Michael and Miranda, were becoming teenagers. Adding to the unexpected nature of the situation was the fact that Randy had undergone a vasectomy years earlier and was not supposed to be able to have more children. Nevertheless, Randy stood by his wife and assumed the child was his. Unfortunately, their joy did not last as Teresa had a miscarriage. She struggled emotionally in the aftermath and sought support from her church, specifically from Pastor David Love. They had counseling sessions 2 to 3 times a week, and Teresa distanced herself from Randy. Things changed in the early part of 2010. On March 31, Teresa went to the insurance office and found Randy lying on the floor behind his desk, bleeding and unresponsive. Teresa called 911 and said that Randy's ear was bleeding. However, when the police arrived, they discovered that Randy had been shot and died. There was no evidence of a struggle, and money was left untouched on his desk. The police believed it was not a robbery, but a planned murder. The gunshot was fired at close range, and they found a bullet casing from a specific type of gun. They also found out that the gun used belonged to Randy, and it was usually kept locked away and only accessible to him. There was another important clue found in the trash next to Teresa's desk. The investigators pieced together torn pieces of paper and discovered a love letter addressed to Teresa, titled "Happy Birthday, Love." The letter mentioned being excited about future birthdays when they would be together. The investigators quickly realized that Randy was not the author of the letter because they compared his handwriting to reminders on a notepad from his desk. They believed that Teresa had an admirer, and they wondered if this was connected to Randy's murder. The police suspected that the killer was someone close to Randy. When Teresa Stone, Randy's widow, spoke with the police for the first time, her behavior was unusual. She gave the police a very strong alibi for the time when the murder happened. She remembered every detail very clearly, down to the minute, and she had evidence like receipts to back up her movements. While speaking with more friends of the Stones, investigators heard a curious rumor circulating within the New Hope Baptist Church that Teresa Stone and Pastor Love were having an affair. The police asked him to come to the station for a conversation, and the pastor agreed. However, he didn't want to have a long discussion. Pastor Love asked for a lawyer, and the interview came to an end. But the investigators weren't done with Brother Love yet. The police obtained a search warrant and found evidence on the pastor's computer. They discovered pictures and emails that were sent to Teresa, suggesting they were having an affair. There were signs that the two of them were planning to get married. They had bought an engagement ring, and there were wedding plans in a file that made it look like Teresa was gathering information for her daughter. By the time Teresa had another interview with the detectives, they had uncovered and organized a large amount of correspondence between the married lovers. They had collected 10 years' worth of messages. On the day Randy Stone was murdered, investigators discovered that David's phone was connected to a nearby cell tower close to Randy's insurance office. Teresa received a text message warning her not to go to the office alone. Despite the instruction, Teresa went to the office and found her husband dead on the floor. Teresa was questioned again about a torn love letter found in her trash bin, using the evidence from the phones. Initially, Teresa claimed that the cell phones were only used to hide her counseling sessions with a pastor, as his wife was uncomfortable with their close relationship. Teresa's excuses didn't work. She couldn't handle the pressure when she was questioned. The widow admitted to having an affair, but she said that David had nothing to do with the murder. She told the police that she had wanted to end the affair for a long time but was scared. The investigators knew that David had sent a warning message to Teresa before she arrived at the office. They also discovered from phone records that Teresa didn't call 911 first when she found her husband dead. Instead, she called her mother and clearly explained what had happened. Teresa broke down and confessed to the police that David had come to her house later that night and revealed everything to her. He explained how he entered the office, aimed, and fired in an attempt to harm Pastor Love. This was another confession made by Teresa. The investigators had her make a recorded phone call to her ex-lover. The pastor didn't admit anything over the phone, but it didn't matter. Witnesses saw a Ford Taurus driving in the area where the murder took place. His warning message to Teresa and the location data from his cell phone supported Teresa's subsequent confession. This evidence was more than enough to arrest him. After obtaining a search warrant for David Love's home and church, authorities found him and arrested him in South Carolina in November 2010. A grand jury in Jackson County had indicted him on charges of first-degree murder and armed criminal action. In the weeks following the murder, Teresa had confessed to another pastor she trusted in West Virginia that their plan remained unfinished. They had also discussed killing Kim, David's wife. David Love suggested breaking his wife's neck, placing her in a car, and rolling it down a hill to make it look like an accident. In November 2011, facing overwhelming evidence pointing to his guilt, the 51-year-old pastor accepted a plea deal for second-degree murder. The evidence against Teresa grew stronger as time went on, showing that she was involved in the plan to murder Randy. Even though the pastor admitted his guilt first, Teresa later confessed in the spring of 2012. Teresa admitted to conspiring to commit murder, which is a serious crime. It is classified as a Class B felony and carries a sentence of 5 to 15 years in prison. However, this punishment wasn't enough for some of Randy's loved ones. Ultimately, Teresa was sentenced to 8 years in prison. David Love, who was also involved in the murder plot, is currently serving a life sentence and will be eligible for parole in 2036. Teresa has since been released from prison and is said to be living in the Kansas City area with a new partner. As we conclude our investigation into the murder of Randy Stone, the dark secrets that shrouded this small town have been unveiled. We hope this journey has left you with a deeper understanding of the human psyche and the lengths some will go to hide their sins. Stay tuned for more thrilling mysteries that will keep you captivated, and always remember, the truth is often more terrifying than fiction.